Robert Raymond Zagalski, Lieutenant Colonel Air Force, Buffalo. Diane Martin Berry, Junior Sergeant, Army, New York. Kenneth Dyke, SN Navy.
But it's not just a matter of declaring our right to read the names, it's just declaring our right to be here.
Right, right.
This is a monument to dead veterans.
Right.
And we have come here, whether we read the names or not, just being here is absolutely our responsibility. It's not just a right, it's a responsibility. Is
that partly to respect their memory and respect what they went through? I know, you're a World War II veteran, and I'm sure you did go through a lot in that war. You were several years going through Europe and stuff. Are you here to respect their sacrifice? Are you here to assert your rights to be here, or do you have a larger message?
We're here, I'm here to not just respect their rights, their memory, but because that's, in my mind, not enough.
Right.
We have to let the world know, the public know, that these wars are evil. They're started with lies, and they are benefiting the wealthy corporations and the politicians who serve those corporations.
I was an occupier at Occupy Wall Street, and I joined up with the vets there who were providing security, and one of the things that I think was a missing link for a long time in the Occupy movement was the connection between war and the military machine and the corporate structure. That this is a country that's operating on wars. Without wars, our corporate structure starts crumbling.
How did you get there? I mean, I'm a vet. I think I got there while I served in the Army, but how did you get there as a civilian? Did you know people serving in Vietnam, or?
I knew people who served. I knew people who died.
Right.
Most of the people, to be honest, that I knew, I was protesting during Vietnam. I actually immigrated to Canada and brought AWOL soldiers over the border.
Do you think standing up for free speech has anything to do with that sacrifice?
No question. I think that in many ways, many of our vets are victims in that they were told they're going to countries to fight for democracy, and they're really not. And a lot of them learn that when they get there. And so what happens when they get back is they've learned what the government's really about. And these kinds of events where you're really fighting for democracy make a big difference.
In some ways, it's part of coming back, I think.
Exactly. I think it's part of the healing process.
Brzezinski, Carl Walker, Corporal, Army, New York. Dry, Melvin Pierce, Lieutenant, Navy, Kings Point. Dulick, Joseph David Jr., PFC, Army, Monroe. Duffner, William Frank, Staff Sergeant, Army, Cohoes.
Red Cloud, Oligala, Lakota. Red Jacket, Seneca, Major Ridge, Cherokee. Shingas, Lenape, Chief Seattle, Squamish. Sitting Bull, Lakota.
Eugene Elder, Corporal, Army, New York.
Wants to, and they say, well, we fought for freedom of speech and free. Well, you know what? I don't believe that, but they say they honor the vet and honor the vet.
Right.
Well, honor us by having freedom of speech, having freedom of assembly.
So,
how about that? No, they have a Vietnam Veterans Memorial here. That's a trap to arrest veterans.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a trap.
Yeah,
there was no curfew in the war in Vietnam or any war?
Right.
You can ask this gentleman here. Was there a curfew where you were? I don't remember.
I remember.
He doesn't remember one.
I
don't think there was one either.
past my head at 2 o'clock in the morning.
So you guys have served already. I mean, why are you guys out here?
We don't stop serving. That's not what we do. We continue to serve.
Really?
And look, there's also something else going on here. We're marking the 12th anniversary of the endless war in Afghanistan.
Right.
This war just constantly goes on, and no one really takes notice of it anymore, if they ever did.
Right.
So I mean, the war continues. People continue to die, both Americans and Afghans and Somalis and Yemens. I mean, the war goes on and on and on, and no one's doing anything about it. And it's really frustrating, especially for those of us who have been in this business as long as we have. We've been doing this for 40 years, you know? And after a while you say, come on, when are we going to learn? We thought the legacy of our war, if nothing else, the legacy of our war was what they call the Vietnam Syndrome. That we're going to think twice before we do it again. And for a while that lasted.
It lasted about 15 years.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we forgot all about that. And we started doing the same stupidity, the same insanity that we did during Vietnam. With the same consequences.
What makes you continue to serve? You said that.
Oh, God.
I mean, why?
Penance. Penance for the sacrilege of war. That's what it is.
That you participated in.
Of course it is. Of course it is. We don't do this by choice. We do this because we have to. We do this because we have to.
Really?
Many of the things that we did to the Native Indians as far as slaughter and torture, wars and tricks and treaties, we're doing today as part of the American Empire. The biggest empire in world history. Remains a secret for most Americans. It's never discussed in the media, even though it's the largest empire by far, with over 1,300 military bases and outposts compared to Rome and England, who had about 37. We are by far the largest empire in world history. We don't discuss it. We need to discuss it. Because one reason that our economy is failing, one reason why we're seeing the wealth divide here and abroad, is because we have an empire economy. Empire economies don't help most people. They help the elites. They help the oligarchs. They help the people on Wall Street, the people who are the 1%ers. And so we need to face up to the fact that we are an empire, and we're a destructive empire, and our job as activists, as we remember the war dead from Afghanistan, Iraq, from the drone killings, to the Indian wars, our job is to figure out how to end this empire, and to end it in a way that is the least destructive for mankind.
Occupations such as the occupation of Afghanistan or the occupation of Iraq is about the suppression of all life as soon as you leave the wire. If you are a soldier, Marine, you understand that the world you enter is hostile. Wars of occupation are such that you very rarely see your enemy. IEDs or ambushes are carried out by forces that evaporate very quickly, and once members of your own unit become victims or casualties, it is a very short leap into demonizing everybody, including children, as we saw in Vietnam, outside the perimeter of your safe area. And those are, as Robert J. Lifton correctly says, atrocity-producing situations. Wars of occupation under empire are always one long atrocity, which is what the war in Vietnam was about, it's what the war in Iraq is about, and it's what the war in Afghanistan is about. And when
3 members of my unit committed suicide in a 30-day period. And these 6 that I knew personally, Chris Smith, a sergeant major, and a 19-year-old kid. It becomes clear to me this epidemic has no discrimination between race, rank, or age. It's a very real problem in the military. A family friend, Captain Peter Linruth, was called the Wizard for his ability to treat PTSD and depression in soldiers. But he was denied treatment by the VA and took his own life this January. All of these men had different rationalities for doing what they did. But to say that the military had nothing to do with it would just be wrong. There is a culture in the military where emotion is seen as weakness. and those who might seek help won't, for the fear of judgment. But even more tragic is the many, many cases where soldiers seek help but fall to the ears of an apathetic system. The military's treatment program does not do enough.
20 blocks above here is the good old VA, where I go to have my Agent Orange registry revisited and the cancers redone and all that stuff. But I want to say no better and more eloquent testimony than what Mika just said is really what we're about. This country, we love it so, but it has turned into an empire, as Kevin so eloquently said. And though that flag, I was watching that flag sort of gracefully and gently fluttering over this space, and it's that way too in all of the various battle stations throughout the country. And there's even one in front of that VA center. And when I go up there for my time, I'm an old fart from Vietnam, you see guys and women from recent battles. And they mostly kind of look at their feet. And we sit there in silence, you know, until you go see the doc. Most of the time it takes, when I first got registered, it began in 2003, and last year I got the paperwork back. And this is the kind of thing that really concerns me, that we are taking these young men and women and we're in effect having them as a sort of social construct sort of serve this country. We keep them away until we need them, and we send them overseas in these very toxic battle areas, and they wind up, when they come back, discarded.
PFC, Purvis Octavio, Army, New York. Sergeant Peter Vedash, Marine Corps.
Vietnam War veterans and their allies were arrested Monday night at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in New York City during an event organized by Veterans for Peace, marking the 12th anniversary of the occupation of Afghanistan. The veterans read the names of civilians and soldiers killed there, in Iraq as well, and in Vietnam, as well as in the Obama administration's ongoing drone wars in Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia. They were arrested after refusing to leave. Shortly before the arrest, veteran Mike Hasty addressed the police.
It's just important that you know why we're here. This monument belongs to us. This is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
Lieutenant, Army, New York. Dugnas, Peter, Corporal, Marine Corps, New York. Dumas, David Donald, Corporal, Marine Corps, Syracuse.